My name is Grace Thompson. I'm 93 years old. I spent my entire life raising 4 beautiful children, but when I needed them most, my front door never opened.
People ask what the happiest day of my life was. It wasn't my wedding. It wasn't buying our first house. It was becoming a mother. God blessed me with 2 sons and 2 daughters. My home was noisy, messy, and filled with more love than I ever thought one heart could hold. Every morning began before sunrise. Breakfast, school lunches, laundry, homework. I never complained because those little voices made every sacrifice worthwhile. I never missed a school play, a baseball game, or a piano recital. If my children looked into the crowd, they always found me cheering. We weren't rich. Some months were difficult. But my children never went to bed wondering if they were loved. When my youngest was only 14, my husband suffered a heart attack. That morning, I kissed him goodbye. I never saw him alive again. Overnight, I became a widow and the only parent my children had left. I cried after they fell asleep, never while they were awake. I worked 2 jobs for nearly 15 years. I was always tired, but I refused to let my children see fear in my eyes. Every paycheck had a purpose: school books, doctor visits, college savings. I spent almost nothing on myself, and I never regretted it. One by one, my children graduated. Watching them wear those caps and gowns made every sacrifice feel completely worth it. Then came weddings, new careers, and grandchildren. My family was growing, and my heart couldn't have been happier. Then, almost without warning, the house became quiet. Every bedroom stood empty. The silence felt louder than raising 4 children ever did. Every Sunday, I baked the same apple pie my children loved growing up. I always made enough for everyone, just in case they came home. That Sunday, I looked at my phone all afternoon. It never rang. I told myself they were simply busy, but deep down, I already knew something had changed. At first, I understood. They had careers, children, and responsibilities. Every missed visit sounded like a perfectly reasonable excuse. Every phone call ended the same way. "We'll come next weekend, Mom." I smiled every time because I believed them. Saturday mornings became my favorite. I cleaned every room, hoping little footsteps would fill the house again. By dinner time, every chair was still empty. I wrapped the leftovers and quietly placed them inside the refrigerator. Birthdays used to fill this house with laughter. Now they arrive through short phone calls and text messages. Christmas became the hardest day of the year. The gifts under my tree grew smaller, while the silence grew bigger. My grandchildren waved through tiny phone screens. They smiled, said they loved me, then disappeared with one tap. I never told my children how lonely I felt. Mothers spend a lifetime protecting their children, even from their own sadness. Every evening, I look through the same front window. Hope has a strange way of surviving longer than it should. One afternoon, my neighbor asked if my children were visiting for the holidays. I smiled and simply said, "They're very busy." The truth was, I had stopped expecting surprise visits. Hope had quietly become routine disappointment. I began marking every promise on my calendar. One by one, I crossed them out when no one came. Sometimes I replayed old voice messages just to hear my children's younger voices calling me. "Hi, Mom." My oldest son called and said, "Mom, I promise we'll visit next Sunday." I believed him, just like every other time. The next Sunday, I waited from sunrise until dark. I never heard a car. I never heard a knock. Only the clock kept me company. One rainy morning, I reached for my coffee. My foot slipped on the kitchen floor, and suddenly, everything went black. It wasn't one of my children who found me. It was my neighbor who noticed my front door had been open for hours. As the paramedics lifted me onto the stretcher, I kept asking the same question. Has anyone called my children? The doctors told me I would be all right. All I wanted to hear was that one of my children was on the way. Every time footsteps echoed outside my room, I smiled. Every time they passed my door, I looked away. My oldest son called that evening. He said he was catching the first flight he could find. I believed him. The next morning, he called again. "Mom,
I'm so sorry. Something came up. I'll be there tomorrow. My daughter cried on the phone. She promised she missed me. She also said the children couldn't miss school. Every afternoon, I watched families fill the hallway with flowers, balloons, and laughter. My room stayed quiet. One young nurse noticed I kept looking at the door. She gently asked, "Are you waiting for someone?" I smiled and said, "Just my children." Even as I said the words, I wasn't sure I believed them anymore. The next morning, flowers arrived with a small card. "Get well soon, Mom." I held them tighter than I should have. Flowers have never hugged anyone. Cards have never held a mother's hand. That room still felt painfully empty. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering if I had spent so many years giving that I forgot to teach my children how to stay. The next morning, my doctor quietly sat beside me. Then he asked a question that changed everything. "Grace, who will take you home?" When my doctor asked who would take me home, I couldn't answer. For the first time in 93 years, I truly felt alone. A hospital volunteer drove me home that afternoon. I never imagined a stranger would be the one opening my front door. Everything inside my home looked exactly the same, only I had changed. I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my favorite chair. The silence felt heavier than ever before. I picked up my old address book and stared at my children's names. They were only one phone call away, yet they felt 1,000 miles away. Instead of calling, I decided to write them a letter. Some words are easier to write than to say. I didn't blame them. I didn't ask for apologies. I only told them how much I missed hearing their voices. As I wrote, I realized something painful. I taught my children how to chase success, but I never taught them to slow down for the people they loved. The next morning, I placed 4 letters into my mailbox and whispered, "Maybe this time they'll understand." 3 days later, someone knocked on my front door. For a moment, my heart felt young again. When I opened the door, my youngest daughter stood there with tears in her eyes. She didn't say a word. She simply hugged me. She whispered, "Mom, we thought giving you space was what you wanted. We never realized how lonely you had become." That evening, my daughter called her brothers and sister. For the first time in years, our family spoke honestly instead of politely. A week later, my house sounded alive again. Laughter echoed through every room, just like it had so many years before.
If you're watching this today, don't wait for a hospital bed, an empty house, or a handwritten letter. Call your parents. Visit them while they can still open the door and smile when they see you. Time doesn't steal families overnight. It does it one missed visit at a time.